Howdy and welcome to the guide. So, back in 3.5 Betrayal League, I made my first guide ever for PoE with my Dominating Blow Necromancer. It has by far been my most viewed and well received video, so I thank anyone who has supported that video. I've come back to that build with a new take on it. This build is a strong mapper that is capable of clearing all content. Stick around till the end of the video to check out the Shaper and Uber Elder clips. Let's get started. This build is using three core mechanics: Dominating Blow, Herald of Purity, and Herald of Agony. If you're not familiar with Dominating Blow, the way it works is, you hit monsters with a melee strike with the skill, then they are tagged for a short time. If they are killed by the skill, or killed in a short time after they have been hit by Dominating Blow, they will get dominated and become a sentinel minion for you. Also, against unique monsters, you have a chance to summon sentinels by hitting them. One cool thing about Dominating Blow is that it's like having a mini headhunter, because when you dominate a rare monster, you turn it into a rare sentinel, and you are benefited by its modifiers. So there are times where you might be getting a big chunk of energy shield for free, or a huge speed boost or something like that. It feels really nice. Also, as stated, we are using Herald of Purity and Herald of Agony together. This is something that I've always wanted to try to do, but never got around to. We are able to run both of these heralds together by using the Coming Calamity unique body armor. This armor makes your herald skills always reserve 45% of your mana. This allows us to run Herald of Purity on a 6 link, as well as another herald, in our case Herald of Agony, in a 4 link. We are unable to run any auras or other skills, but the advantages of having a 6-linked Herald of Purity in this body, which also gives it a +2 to gem levels, well, let's just say it's a huge DPS boost to our Herald of Purity damage. Our Herald of Agony gives us a little more map clear speed because it adds a reliable ranged attack to our minion army. I have it linked to some more support type skills to further boost our damage of Dominating Blow and Herald of Purity as well. Of course, to run Herald of Agony smoothly, we have to have a 100% chance to poison to build virulent stacks, which we do. I'll talk about how we are getting poison into the build in the gear section of the guide. Overall, this build is really smooth. Mapping has not been an issue at all. We are using whirling blades to get around the map quickly, and then our Dominating Blow, Herald of Purity, Herald of Agony, and zombies clean up everything nicely. For my standards, this build is a little more expensive than my usual build guide because of needing a 6-linked Coming Calamity. So, as I mentioned in the intro, I do have a much cheaper guide of this Dominating Blow and Herald of Purity type character that you can get geared up for less than 1 Exalt and still do everything in the game. I'll leave a link in the description below for anyone who is interested. For this build, I'd say I probably spent around 4 to 5 Exalts getting everything set up, with most of that going towards our body armor. But it's been a very successful character for me, as I've been able to clear Uber Elder, and I've been running tier 15s and 16s without any issues at all. As usual, all of the path of building info is in the description below, so feel free to check it out at a more leisurely pace. But without further ado, let's get straight into the gear and gems explanation for the character. Okay, let's talk about our gems, gear, flasks, jewels, and the skill tree a little bit. First, I want to talk about the body armor. So like I said, I'm using the Coming Calamity, and this is what the biggest chunk of our budget went into, was getting this. The reason this is a little expensive is because this is a intelligence-based armor, which means getting anything other than blues is going to be an off color. And as you can see, we've got 4 red sockets for our for our Herald of Purity. So that makes it a little expensive because you can't just buy it off of the trade website. You have to kind of craft it yourself. So what I did was I got a decently good base that had 98% increased energy shield. It goes up to 100. So I took it to the crafting bench, and you can do a jeweler's orb method to get colors. So basically you put it on the crafting bench and you spend jeweler's orbs to increase the number of sockets, right? So For example, you have 3 sockets in it, right? They're already red. So then you increase it to 4 sockets, and if it's not another red, you put it back down to 3, and it'll keep the 3 reds that you had before. So you keep going between like 3 and 4, 3 and 4, 3 and 4 until you get the 4th red. And then from there, you can either choose to gamble and go straight up for 6, maybe because most likely you're gonna get 2 blues, and that's actually what I did. It's kind of a gamble because if you get like a green in there or something, or another red, which another red would be okay, but if you got like a green, for example, it wouldn't be the most optimal color, so you'd have to like re-roll the sockets one more time, and it would cost you a little more currency. But that's basically how you do it, but that makes it a little more expensive. So I probably spent like, I think I used like the 150 chromatics to guarantee the 3 reds first, and then I went from just straight up jeweler orbs after that, like changing between 3 to 4 sockets until I got the next red, and then of course you got to put it up to 6 sockets, so it costs you a few hundred jeweler's orbs. And then of course you have to 6-link it yourself, which for me it took about 3 exalts to 6-link it, so I'd say in total I probably spent like about maybe 4 exalts getting this, 3 to 4, somewhere a little under 4 I would say probably. But anyways, we have our Herald of Purity socketed in here, and if you don't know, Herald of Purity, it scales really well with the gym levels, which makes Necromancer like amazing for Herald of Purity. And in this league they actually buffed Dominating Blow, and they buffed Herald of Purity indirectly for Necromancer, because before the Crusade Slam, which is kind of the Herald of Purity and Dominating Blow, the Sentinel type menus, is their special attack. Only Guardian could use that before, and in this patch now it's actually in the gym instead of an ascendancy thing. So now that means that even a Necromancer can have Sentinels that use Crusade Slam, which is a huge buff to this kind of a build. So I think Necromancer is probably the best choice for Dominating Blow now, and Herald of Purity, because they both scale really well with gym levels, and this body armor gives you +2 to socketed Herald gems. And so we've got our Herald of Purity with Ruthless and Melee Fizz, Brutality. I'm not running any auras, so Brutality becomes a good choice. Minion damage and Death Mark. And I decided to go Death Mark just because for single target it helps out quite a bit, and your Herald of Purity minions are easy to get going against any kind of rare or unique monster. You get them up relatively fast, so even if they die you can get them back pretty quick and just put a new Death Mark on. So I think Death Mark overall gives you the best damage for single target, which is why I'm using it. You could use anything else you wanted here. It's really up to you, but I just kind of wanted to play around with Death Mark personally. So yeah, we're getting more gym levels from the body, and one thing I want to say is that from Necromancer, Unnatural Strength is amazing for Dominating Blow and Herald of Purity, so it makes Necromancer really good. Next, so like I said in the intro, I am using Herald of Agony, which I have in my helmet, but the way we're doing that, so my Dominating Blow has a 100% chance to poison, so you need to have some kind of a weapon like this. So I think this weapon cost me like 40 chaos or 50 maybe. You can get them for much cheaper, for like somewhere between like 10 to 20, maybe even 30 chaos, not that much. I decided to go for a claw because I wanted to have some life leech in the build, otherwise I wouldn't. So it cost me a little bit extra to get something more specific, but what you need is a claw that has socketed gems or supported by level 20 poison, because whatever you have socketed in that is going to get a free 60% chance to poison. And then if you look at the modifiers, it's a suffix, right? Socketed gems are supported by level 20 poison. That also gives you another 20% chance to poison on hit, which puts you up to 80%, right? And then Herald of Purity, it also grants you another 20% chance to poison on hit. So that gets you up to 100% chance to poison just by having this kind of a Elder one-handed weapon with the level 20 poison on it. That it instantly gives you up to 100% chance of poison if you have your main attack socketed in here. And I got one that had +1 to levels just for a little bit more damage on our Dominating Blow minions, and then Ruthless and Ancestral Call. And I tried to get one with at least 1.7 attack speeds, This one also has a little bit more, but it didn't have any plus to levels, so I decided to stick with this one. And if you can, try to get one with an open prefix, because you can craft on some minion damage, or if you want the minion damage / life mod would be good too. But this is basically our build enabling Claw here. You have to have something with poison on it, or you won't be able to use Herald of Agony. You just have to take it out of the build in that case. But so we do have our Dominating Blow in here, so it's getting supported by the Poison, Ruthless, and Ancestral Call. Unfortunately, Ancestral Call doesn't work with the actual Sentinel minions, but it does work with your actual attack whenever you're doing the Dominating Blow. So I wanted to do this just because I'm hitting more targets. I'm hitting multiple targets, which makes us, poison more, thus giving us more stacks for our Herald of Agony. And you dominate more at once, right? You get more minions summoned back quicker. And then we have Fortify, so we're fortifying ourselves. Our minions also fortify themselves. And then Multi-Strike, just so we can attack faster against unique monsters to get more minions up quicker. And then, let's talk about the helmet. So I just tried to find one with +2, at least +2 to our minions, and then as much life as I could find, and some dex, and I got, 1 resist on there, which helps. So just try to look for something like that. We do need dex. Because of our Herald of Agony gem, you got to get up to 155. That's like the biggest challenge with the gear. Just make sure you get enough dex from everything. So I got some dex on my helmet here. And we have our Herald of Agony here with Maim, minion damage, and Feeding Frenzy. And like I said in the intro, or the overview part, I wanted to have some more supporty type stuff, so I went for a Maim and a Feeding Frenzy, which boosts the damage of everything in our army. So that's it for the helmet. Next I want to talk about the shield. So I used this on my previous Dominating Blow character as well, back in 3.5, the Invictus Solaris shield. I really like this shield. I think it's one of the most possibly underrated shields in the game. And I got one of those corrupted with a plus 12% to elemental resistances. That cost me, I think, it was 15 or 20 chaos. If it's not corrupted, you can probably get one for maybe 5 chaos, 3 to 5 chaos, something like that. But you want to make sure that you can get 2 reds and a blue for your sockets. The reason this is good is because it has +2 to all your socketed gems. And you get some life, some energy shield, some armor. And you can't be ignited, which frees up a flask slot. You don't have to worry about removing ignite, right? So I think it's a really underrated shield. And it also gives you a 1000 damage barrier against fire damage. That's what the level 20 Fire Aegis does. But what I did was I put zombies in here, and the idea here is that we're just trying to boost their damage and their life through gem levels. And so we have our zombies with brutality and empower, and I went for brutality instead of minion life, but just to give them some more damage. But actually, my zombies did die on Uber Elder, so I'm thinking maybe I might want to try a minion life in here, just to make them survive. Against everything else, they never died at all, I don't think. But yeah, Uber Elder, they did die on Uber Elder. I think they've got 64,000 life right now. Another thing you could do is get a 21 gem for zombie and a 4 level empower. Mine's only level 3, and that would give them quite a bit more damage, and they would have over 70,000 health, which would be good. But for me, just being a pleb, nothing I do is ever min-max. There's much, you can still get some more out of this build, don't get me wrong. But I was thinking about maybe trying a minion life out here. Their damage would suffer a little bit, but I don't think they'd die against Uber Elder. For my amulet, again, I needed dexterity, so I got something with increased attributes to get a little more dex here. But I was trying to get a big life one, so I got one that has life and increased percentage of max life. And it had an open suffix, so I was able to craft some more resists on here. I tried to get some chaos resist into the build this time, so that's what I did there. Next, my 2 rings. So I tried to get 1 unset ring because I wanted 1 extra gem that I couldn't fit in. Again, I just went for a big life one, so we got again life and a percent increase to our life with an open suffix. I got some more crafting chance here to get some more resists and some dex again, because we need dex. These rings aren't that expensive. This amulet wasn't that expensive because there's not really much on them besides attributes and life. So I probably got them all for like somewhere between 10 to 20 chaos. In here I have Desecrate, and the reason for this is because I decided to go Plaguebringer, and the reason being is because I'm not using any offerings, so this wouldn't work. And then again, this is another corpse related one, but I'm pretty sure I can't use Commander of Darkness because I'm not actually running any auras, and it says that auras from your skills, or you and your allies affected by auras from your skills, right? And since we're not running any auras, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't get any benefits. We're only running 2 heralds. So I think the only real choice was getting Plaguebringer, and what it does is, with one nearby corpse, you and allies deal 10% more damage, and then with at least one nearby corpse, nearby enemies deal 10% reduced damage. So it's kind of like basically a debuff for enemies and a buff for us. So what I did was I decided to get a ring, unset ring, so I could have Desecrate, and then I just drop it against like bosses, map bosses, Shaper, Elder, Uber Elder, those kind of, you know, encounters, just to give us a little more damage. In my other ring, again, we're going for a lot of life, again, going for life and percent increased life on one ring. The evasion doesn't really matter. But I do recommend trying to get one with an open prefix. This one doesn't have any stats besides strength. I didn't get any dex on this one, so it didn't cost me that much. We got a little bit of lightning resist, but having an open prefix is really helpful because you can craft on non-channeling skills have minus to total mana cost. And I don't have any kind of mana leech at all, but I'm completely sustaining my dominating blow just through mana regeneration. And cutting the cost of the skill has made that possible. I can literally attack forever and never run out of mana. So finding a ring with an open prefix and a bunch of life, I can highly recommend doing that. As you can see, we have over 7,000 life, and that's because I completely targeted these kind of items. Next, let's talk about my gloves. Again, we needed more dexterity, so I got some dexterity here. The accuracy doesn't matter because we are running Resolute Technique, but you know, that's an unneeded stat. But again, just look for some life, some resist, some dexterity here. That's about all you need on it. And I'm using my Whirling Blades with faster attacks here. And then I have it with Curse on Hit, with Vulnerability, and we are cursing things with Vulnerability. Against harder enemies, I try to Whirling Blades through them to curse them. And that's it for that slot. Let's look at the belt. Again, just go for some life. If you can get some armor and some resist, that would be great. I just found one with an open suffix. If you can find things like this, you can sometimes get them for cheap. This probably cost me somewhere between 10 to 20 chaos, I don't remember exactly, but try to find something with an open suffix so you can craft some more resist yourself, and that usually saves you a little bit of currency. And then for my boots, again, I'm not going for movement speed since I'm whirling blading around, and that makes boots a little bit cheaper. Just try to get some life, high life, and some high resist here. And I do have an Animate Guardian. It died against Uber Elder at some point. I think it might have died a little bit before that actually, when I was running like some tier 16s or something, which was a little unfortunate, but you could trade this out for anything else. You could do like a I don't know, any other kind of mini. A golem would be fine. I actually experimented before I started using Desecrate with using a carry-on golem, so that was a good idea. You could do that instead of Animate Guardian, but the main thing here is that I have our Erase Spectre, and I am using 2 Carnage Chieftains and 2 Host Chieftains for Frenzy and Power charges for us and our minions, with Blood Magic, so they'll do it more often, and then Minion Life, and then I had my Animate Guardian. But if you don't want to use an Animate Guardian, you can swap it out for anything else. I just had one very basic setup with like Ambush Charge, Victario's, boots for more movement speed, Leercast Mask, and I think it's like the Dying Breath Staff for more damage for us and our minions. So really basic Animate Guardian setup for about like 10 chaos. But it's not necessary, you can use anything else you want here. And that's it for the gear. I think I covered everything there. For our flasks, I'm running a Rumi's Concoction just for a little bit more armor and block chance. Then I have a Sulfur Flask for the Consecrated Grounds, gives us a little more regen, gives our minions some regen. And then I went for a Shock Removal. And then I'm using a Jade Flask for some evasion, another defensive layer with a freeze removal. I am running an Aziri's Promise. This is mainly for the Chaos resist, but it does give us a little bit stronger leech, not too much. Like, our dominating blow damage isn't that good from our attack. Our minions are doing, you know, like a good 1 million plus Shaper DPS whenever we get a bunch of them up, but this is mainly just for us to have a little bit more leech. And then finally a life flask with a bleed removal, and you don't have to get the one charge when you're hit, but it's a nice one if you can find it. That's it for our gear and flasks. Another kind of weapon, if you didn't want to use whirling blades, you could try to get a one-handed sword, and that would let you use leap slam instead. I actually kind of prefer leap slam, but I was playing around just with getting a little bit more leech into the build, because if you don't have a claw, we don't have any kind of leech at all in the skill tree. And since I'm completely sustaining my mana, what I did is I anointed Aligned Spirits, which is right here. It gives your minions some more damage, makes your minion skills cost less, which also allows us to sustain the skill, and it gives us some more mana, which in turn lets us regenerate a little bit more. For our jewels, if you want, these are a really good option. Just try to get something with at least like 30 life or 35 life, and then minions deal 15% increased damage if you use a minion skill recently, because Dominating Blow is a minion skill and you're always swinging it, so this is pretty much always active. These are also an option, but these are quite expensive. You'd be lucky to get one for less than an Exalt, I think. Like, you're probably looking at least 60 Chaos for one of these, but most of the time they're going to be like 100 to an Exalt. So these kind of jewels are a little bit more budget friendly, so this one's also expensive. I actually happened to find one myself, which was really lucky. But that's it for the build. I'm currently level 90. I was planning out to level 92. I was going to pick up these two nodes here at the end, and then that would have been the end of my build. For the Ascendancy, just first go down here to Mindless Aggression, pick up this, get Bone Barrier, which this is a really underrated node. When I'm mapping, when I'm jumping around from pack to pack, I pretty much always try to activate this. It lasts for 3 seconds and then it has a 3-second cooldown, so I try to keep it up as much as I can. It's like a free, what is it called? Steel Flesh? I forget what you actually call that one. Like kind of an Immortal Call type support for free. You don't need any kind of gem. This gives you some more resists. Your minions get some more life. Physical damage reduction is pretty good. I tried to cap my resist without including this in there, just because this would help out against elemental weakness maps. And then, yeah, Unnatural Strength I talked about, and Plaguebringer last. And that's it, so without further ado, let's get into the Shaper and Uber Elder clip. One note is that I did die, I think, like 3-4 times on Uber Elder. This isn't, like, completely a perfect setup for running Uber Elder. Like, my zombies were dying, like I said. I'm gonna have to figure out, I'm probably just gonna have to give them some more minion life to keep them alive. But I accidentally cut off my recording, and then I accidentally forgot to restart it. So on my second death, I got up and got a drink, and I turned off my recording while I was doing that. But when I came back, I completely like brain cramped and forgot to restart it. So I'll throw in a Shaper clip here. I ran Shaper after that just to get some more in-game footage. I'll put the Shaper clip first, followed by the Uber Elder, which I unfortunately cut off the recording. I went back in and started the recording again just to show that it was dead, but apologize for that. It is Uber Elder capable. Maybe not the best build for running Uber Elder, but it can do it. But anyways, without further ado, thanks for watching. If you want to like the video, I would appreciate that, and drop a subscribe and hit the bell. And I'll be back with another build guide, probably one more, maybe two before the end of the league, I'm not sure. But anyways, thanks for watching. Have a good one. Peace. you.